I just want to reject this idea that Tim Kaine is a safe pick. It's anything but. It's a very dangerous, somewhat radical pick. It's just that it's on the other side of the spectrum. If the argument that it's safe is directed anywhere, it's at the left of the Democratic Party. Rather, what Tim Kaine suggests to me is that Clinton is going to be aggressively and very dangerously pursuing Republican voters. It's not about playing defense. It's not about, falling back to some agreed upon position. It's about positioning herself in such a way that she can credibly convince conservatives that she's more aligned with them than Donald Trump is. This is not a defensive strategy, it's a very aggressive offensive strategy. And the reason why it's being presented as something otherwise is just to try and trick the part of the party that the establishment feels is safe. Now, I know we just went through several months of Bernie Sanders primary. It was supposed to be all about, pulling Clinton to the left. He got some pretty good language out of her, in the platform, and then she goes out and picks a VP that suggests that she's aggressively moving to the right. What's going on here? Well, it's what a two-party system does. Okay? You shouldn't be surprised. You should have expected this all along. And there were a lot of people that said that, okay? Bernie had to win, or he wasn't going to get anything. If you're going to uphold a two-party system, this is what you're going to get every single time. The outcome will never be different. You will always get the same outcome. And that's because it's predetermined by the system itself. The Democrats are never going to fight on their left because they're never going to be threatened on the left. Why would they go after the left when all the votes are on the right? Or all the votes that are up for debate are on the right? There's no swing on the left. What do you swing from? You swing from the Democrats off to the, off into the ditch. There's nothing there to swing to. All the swing voters are in the center, which in the United States means the extreme right. In order to get pressure on the Democrats to move to the left, there has to be another party there. It cannot happen inside the system. It's impossible. And so the reason this is so predictable, the reason everyone saw this coming, or everyone that was smart saw it coming, is because the system necessitates it. In a two-party system, all elections are fought in the center, and the nominee of the party is obligated to focus her efforts on winning votes on the other side of the aisle, like the CEO of a corporation is obligated to maximizing profit. As it happens to be, this particular nominee is pretty conservative, but even if she wasn't, she would still have to fight on the right, because that's where the election's fought, is in between. That's how the system works. You can compare that up in Canada, where we often have the situation where the Conservative Party is irrelevant and the election is fought between the Liberals and the NDP. That is a Liberal Party and a nominally Socialist Party. And so the Liberals have to come out with social policies because there's a party that will steal their votes otherwise. And then the Conservatives win. Even though they never get more than 40% of the vote. And usually run somewhere around 35. And that's with, 70% turnout. And yeah, sometimes we have to suffer through conservatives when the liberals want to be hard-headed. But so long as we stick to that, we get what we want. But we have to be credible. The liberals have to know that there's a credible threat there, that they will lose if they don't cave. Because politics is not about coming together Politics is not about unity. Okay? Politics is not about harmony. Politics is about struggle. It's about leverage. Again, don't keep upholding the system and then expect it to do something it's not designed to do. If you want the Democrats to swing to the left, you have absolutely no choice but to create a party on the left for it to compete with. Otherwise, you're going to go through cycle after cycle, and you're going to bash your head against the wall, and you're going to say, the demographics really supported it this year, and you're going to say this doesn't make any sense, and you're going to appeal to logic and all these kinds of things because you don't understand the basic truth of it, which is that in order for the Democrats to win, they have to fight the election on their right. Because there's only two parties, and the other one is to their right. It's actually really not complicated. It's the simplest thing in the world. When you have two parties, both of the parties have to appeal to people on the other party. It's the simplest thing in the world. And if you want election battles to be fought somewhere else in the spectrum, you have to have a party at that place in the spectrum. And they might never win. But that doesn't matter. Winning does not matter in an electoral system. Well, it matters in the primaries. What matters is getting your ideas adopted. The NDP have never won an election, but they've had a far greater effect on the country than the Conservatives have. In fact, they've probably had a bigger, well, that's debatable because there's a lot of shared ideas, okay? But it's not debatable that in the last 100 years, the Conservatives have been in power something like 30% of the time. And I mean, the Liberals have been, I'm not exaggerating, the Liberals have been in power for something like 70 of the last 100 years in Canada. Conservatives have been in power about 30 years, so about 30% of the time, and the NDP have been in power none of the time. If you look at our Constitution, the NDP have had a bigger effect than the Conservatives had. If you look at our social system, the NDP have had a bigger effect than the Conservatives have. You don't actually have to win. You just have to get leverage to get your policies through. And you can't do that inside the system if you're willing to fold and do what the establishment wants. You have to get outside of it and fight from that vantage point. So of course Clinton is fighting the election on the right. Anyone who won the nomination would have to do that. They'd be obligated to do that because that's their job. That's how the system works. They have no choice. It's really not the actors that are the problem. It's the system, and it's not even the money. It's the way the system's designed. Even if you took all the money out of it, you still have the same problem because you only have two parties. And I don't know how much simpler it is to state it. How much more obvious could it be? If you're in party X and you want to win, you have to convince the people in party Y to vote for you. Obviously. So what do your policies reflect? What do you have to do? You have to float policies that are going to be appealing to the other party. And if there's only two parties, you only have one choice. You don't float positions that are appealing to your own party. How is that going to help you win an election? It's the system. And if you want things to change, you have to change the system. Which means you need a third party. So people are going to complain, like it. I just watched an interview with Chris Hedges and who was he? Was Robert Reich, and they're having this debate, And Robert Reich was pushing the liberal reformist position, and Hedges did a good job. I'm really actually not a fan of Hedges, or not a big fan of Hedges. I think he's a little bit of he's a little bit unstable. Um, he has a tendency towards uh, he has a tendency to kind of break down. I don't know if it's he might be a little bipolar or something in there. I don't know. I'm making it up, but I think it's it's based on evidence, right, or observation. Anyways, I'm not a doctor. Oh, I'm not a doctor. No, it's true though. I'm not a doctor, so don't But it seems to me like there's something there. But he nonetheless he made pretty quick work of Robert Reich. He shut him down pretty convincingly and pretty comprehensively. It's just not how the system works. This idea that you can slowly have it's not. And so yeah, if you support Stein and she gets to 8% this time around and Trump wins the election, that's not a reason you should not be upset. Next time maybe she'll get 12% and the Republicans will win again. And then maybe next time she'll get 15% and the Republicans will win again. Okay? And then after 20 years of the Republicans winning, the Democrats will pull their heads out of their asses and say, okay, if we want to win an election, we got to listen to these guys a little bit. And it means you've got to grit your teeth and deal with it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with this two-party system that is the same, you're going to end up with this two-headed monster, and it's never going to change. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, this Kaine thing is not about, this isn't safe. This is dangerous as hell. This is an aggressive, offensive strategy for the Democrats to try to move well to the right of where they are right now in order to try to control what they see as a center that the Republican Party has abandoned. And I think they're right. Tactically speaking, I think it's a good choice. I mean, I don't know. If you were to print out a list of 100 policy positions, I might agree with Tim Kaine on 3 of them or something. Right? See, here's the thing that you might not realize. I'd probably agree with Mike Pence on 3 out of 100 policy positions as well. They'd just be different policy positions. It's not any, it's not a higher level of agreement. It's a level of different agreement, right? But I mean, I do think that it's a correct calculation. That this is what you do, because that's how the system works. If you want to play the game, you have to play the game by the rules, and these are what the rules are. Is that you have to convince people in the other party to vote for you, because the people in your party are going to vote for you anyways, or they're not going to vote at all, or they're going to vote for somebody else.